this is Unicorn, and today I am bringing you a gigantic book haul, and please excuse the empty shelf behind me. I am undergoing some reorganization of my mystery shelves. So the thing is, 2 days ago, I realized that despite that I have made 2 books in Chinese haul recently, I haven't made a traditional book haul like in a year. My last books in English haul was last summer. It was called Summer Book Haul, and that was it. So how crazy was that? So initially I wanted to put together all the books that I acquired after that book haul to present you a book haul of the year, but I quickly realized that the amount of books just get out of hand and it will be here for like a million years if I want to do a book haul for the year. I thought I would just collect all the books that I got this year and present you a book haul of this year so far. And I'll also include some Chinese books because I figured from now on I can just blend in all the Chinese books that I got within my normal book haul because I no longer have the difficulty to acquire books in Chinese. So as the title suggests, I have 30 books in total, including 19 fictions, 10 nonfictions, and 1 play script. Some of the books I've already read because I borrowed them from the library and I loved them so much that I went ahead and got my own copy, but some of the books that I have never mentioned on my channel. So without further ado, let's dive into the books. Fictional first. Firstly, I got I Who Have Never Known Man by Jacqueline Harpman, and it was translated from French by Ross Strauss. This is a dystopian sci-fi. It's talking about a protagonist who is locked underground with 39 other women, and they are heavily guarded by a bunch of male guards. The protagonist has no memory of outside, and actually they didn't even know if they are still on Earth, nor do they have the accurate concept of time. Intimacy is also strictly forbidden in this small closed space, and one day something happened and the lives of all the 40 women drastically changed. I already read this book earlier this year and I highly recommend it to anyone who likes a dystopian novel. However, if you do want to read it, I don't suggest that you look into further information. I recommend you go into this book as blind as possible. Next, I have here No Longer Human by Dazai Osamu, and it was translated from Japanese by Donut Keen. And the Chinese translation of this book is 人间失格, so this is a very classic Japanese literature, and I got it from an indie store. I didn't recognize the English title of this book. To be honest, if I recognized that this book is the book in my mind in Chinese, I wouldn't pick it up as an English copy because I've always wanted to read it either in Japanese when I'm there for my Japanese level or in a Chinese translation. Anyhow, this book was set in a post-war Japan, talking about a person who is tangled between the ideas of the traditional Japanese values and the newly acquired Western ideas. He struggles too much to a point where he felt like he's not qualified to be a human anymore, hence the title No Longer Human. As I said, I've always wanted to read this book, but also this is one of the Japanese classics that kind of intimidated me, so I've never picked it up, and this cover, when I saw it, gave me a sci-fi vibe, so actually that's why, but it is not. Now that I have this English copy, I'm still debating on if I want to read the English one or the Chinese one. Then I have The War by Marlon, Haushofer, and translated by Sean Whiteside, and I am so sure that I'm butchering the name, so I'm so sorry about it. This is another dystopian sci-fi talking about a woman woke up one day and find out somehow all the other people on Earth has disappeared and she became the only surviving human on this planet. And that is all I know, and that is all I needed to know. It is so intriguing to me and I can't wait to dive in. Next, I have 2 books that I've already read and I loved and I don't want to bore you again with, so I will just quickly mention them. The first one is The Marriage Portrait by Maggie. This is a book that I borrowed from the library. This is a historical fiction about a girl in 1500 Italy and talking about how women's life was cut short just by the role of motherhood. The next one is Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Marina. This is another historical fiction. It is set in the San Francisco Chinatown in 1950s, talking about a girl called Lily who is raised up to be the perfect Chinese American. However, everything changes after her sexual awakening. Following, I have a bunch of classics. The first one is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel García Márquez, and it is translated from Spanish by George Rabassa. This is one of those books that I vaguely know that it is magical realism. However, I have no idea what happened in this book, but at the same time, I really want to read it because it was such a classic. And I also know that it is one of the most influential literature works in our lifetime. And the thing that actually prompted me to pick it up is because I will be traveling to Colombia after I filmed this book haul. And the other day, I was like, oh, I'm going to Colombia, so I might as well just read some Colombian authors. And who else other than Garcia Marquez, right? The next classic I have is The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens. And the thing is, I've already mentioned a couple of times on my channel that I kind of wanted to join all the read-alongs that was hosted by Kitty from Books and Things. I don't know what it is about me. Maybe I still have a heart for classics, even though it is a small portion of my reading. Anyhow, so she is hosting a mega Dickens read-along, and this is one of the books like for a couple of months ago. And on that month, I was like, oh, I want to join this month. So I got the book and never get to it. It is the story of my life. Like, I have finally finished one group reading of hers this year for Jane Austen July, which is Northanger Abbey. But like before that, all I have are fillers. So to sum it up, I got this book for the read-along and I didn't read it. But, well, I do plan to read Dickens in my lifetime, so I'm happy to have it. However, the next book is a follow-up of a victory of reading classics, and it is The Hunchback of Notre-Dame by Victor Hugo. I have recently read Les Mis by Victor Hugo, and yes, I'm not stopped talking about it. I'm still bragging about it. I was so proud of myself. Anyhow, so I was thinking maybe I'll read more books of his because I really love the story of Les Mis, so I got this one. Same story with Les Mis. I read this book in Chinese translation when I was really little, and I really loved the musical. However, I was only able to watch the musical once on stage when it toured to China like years ago. Anyhow, I want to reread this book. Then I have this gorgeous edition of the complete Sherlock Holmes collection by Conan Doyle. I used to have a complete set of Sherlock Holmes in mass market paperback. However, they took up so much space on my shelves, and as you can see, I'm undergoing some reconstruction of my mystery shelves. So one day I decided to get a very beautiful copy of them because I do really love Sherlock Holmes, and also save some space by passing my collection of mass market paperback to a friend who's building up her library. So rather saying that I am reading this book, it is more accurate to say that I just want to collect it as my copy of Sherlock Holmes and really treasure it because I've already read most of the story in Sherlock Holmes anyway, but I do love this edition and how golden and great it looks. Lastly, for fiction, I have a box set of translated Japanese detective novels into Chinese. As I told you before, now I can get Chinese books regularly. They just became a part of my normal life, so I'll just include them in my normal book haul. I received these books after I did the Chinese book haul though. So they are the collection of 10 books of a Japanese detective called Kindaishi, and they're written by Yokomizo Seishi, and this box is empty because they are so heavy and I took all the books out. Yokomizo Seishi is one of the representative authors of a Japanese mystery style called Honkaku, and I have talked about him in my Japanese mystery 101 videos, which I highly recommend if you like mystery. I actually have one of the books in this box set in English. It's called the Honjin murders. However, I want to read most of the books about this detective Kindaishi, so that's why I got this book set, because there are not many of his stories has been translated into English just yet. So I want to show you the title of these books. However, I won't translate all of them. I'll let you know if they have English translation. The first one is 玉门岛. This one has English translation as Death of Gokumon Island. And then 本阵杀人事件. This is the one that I have in English called the Honjin murders. However, This book includes 2 other stories besides Honjin murders, which I believe the English one only had that 1 story, so this is a collection of 3 stories. 犬神家族 The Inugami Curse 恶魔的彩球歌 No English translation that I can find 八木村 The Village of 8 Graves 恶魔吹着笛子来 The Devil's Flute Murders 化妆舞会三手塔女王峰 and lastly 夜行 and that's all the fictional books that I accumulated this year. And now let's move on to nonfiction, starting with memoirs. The first memoir I have here is The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. I wanted to read more Californian writers this year, and Joan Didion was on the top of my list, so I borrowed this book from the library and I ended up really loving it. That's why I got a copy of my own. This was Joan Didion's memoir talking about the year after her husband passed away, and at the same time, her daughter was in hospital with critical conditions. This is such a moving and personal memoir. Joan Didion took you hand by hand to process the different stages of grief. It was just so touching and I loved it so much. After reading it, I feel like I gained so much new perspectives about grief, and now I have this book to my collection. I will go ahead and read more of her books. The next memoir is Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal by Jeanette Winterson. Not so long ago, I recommended Jeanette Winterson's autobiography novel, Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, on my channel, and that reminded me that I've always wanted to read this memoir of hers. Jeanette Winterson grew up in a super conservative family, and she has such a difficult time being a queer in that household, and she has so many reflections on her hardness of growing up in her novel, and I expect this memoir to be more personal. And the last memoir, I'm sure you've already get tired of me talking about it, and it is Page Boy by Elliot Page. We actually got 3 copies of this book in total, and I've already gifted one of the signed copies to one of my friends because I have one that I read, and me and my partner, we went to the book tour and got 2 signed copies. So now I am keeping 2, the one that I read and 1 signed copy. And now let's move on to other nonfiction. The first one is Refusing Compulsory Sexuality, A Black Asexual Lens on Our Sex-Obsessed Culture by Sharonda J. Brown. After I read Ace by Angela Chen last year, I started to think a lot about compulsory sexuality and how our world is actually designed around this concept, and a lot of things started to make sense to me. And this book is just talking about this topic from a more diverse point of view, so I'm hoping to learn a lot from it. On the similar note, I got the Claiming the Bee in LGBT, Illuminating the Bisexual Narrative, and it is edited by Kate Harold. This is an anthology about bisexuality, of course, and it includes a lot of different perspectives. I'm hoping to learn a lot from this book. However, besides that, I don't know too much about it. And then let's move on to feminism. First of all, I have Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Press. This is another book that I initially borrowed from the library. I thought that I know a lot about these topics already because when building the foundation of the society, a lot of times women are invisible and being ignored. However, this book surprised me with some additional content and some evidence that I want to keep a record. So I went ahead and got a copy of my own. So in the future, if I want to reference anything from this book, I have the physical book handy. Continue this feminist note, I have entitled How Male Privilege Hurts Women by Kate Min. Same thing, borrowed, read, loved, bought. This is actually one of the most popular books in the Chinese reading community last year, which I picked up from that list, and I'm happily surprised. From the title, you can tell that this is a book about how male entitlement can explain a wide range of phenomena in society. And this is a book that is calling for us to reflect on our default thought and mood that was shaped by society, and encourage women to take up more space and resist the entitlement attitude of men around us. I really enjoyed this book, and I feel like it provided me with broader perspective. The last book on the topic of feminism is Women, Race, and Class by Angela Y. Davis. This is a classic nonfiction about the social and political influence of whiteness and elitism elitism in society and feminism, which is a topic that I'm really interested in. However, because it was written in the 80s, so I'm kind of intimidated by it, but I hope it is an easy read for me. Then I have a book that is on the complete different topic, that is The Select Letters by Jane Austen. And this is a book that I picked up after I successfully read Northanger Abbey for Jane Austen July this month, and we're still in July, so technically we're still in Jane Austen July. However, I do have the trip coming up, so I don't plan to read this book in this month, but I do want to get to it pretty soon to celebrate my one-time success of reading the group book of Jane Austen July. The last two nonfictions have very self-explanatory titles, and you will know me so much better after you know the titles, so I saved it to almost to the last for the besties. So the first one is Adult Children of Emotional Immature Parents, How to Heal from Distance, Rejecting, and Self-Involved Parents by Lindsay G. Gimberson. And the second one is Codependent No More, How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Caring for Yourself by Melody Betty. And that's it. Congrats that you know me a lot more now. I do have one more little book that is a play script in this book haul, and that is Gaslight by Patrick Hamilton. This is the origin of the psychological terminology gaslight is coming from. It is a story about how a husband manipulates his wife using the gaslight in their house, and I was just very curious about the origin of this word, and I figured I would just read the play because it's not so long. And that is my gigantic book haul for the first half of the year. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any thoughts about the books that I mentioned, or if you recommend me to start with some of the books that you've liked or read, please let me know down below. And also tell me what book did you get in the first half of the year that you haven't get to but you really want to. And don't forget to say hi in the comment section down below. Thumbs up to this video if you liked it. I hope you happy reading, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next bookish video. Bye!